Welcome back, everybody. This Week in America, website thisweekinamerica.us. Thank you for joining us on the program. As mentioned, our guest on the program, William Zuspan. He's author of the book Woman of Valor. The book is available at Amazon.com, Doran'sBookstore.com, and information at our website, thisweekinamerica.us. William graduated with a bachelor's degree in psychology from Kalamazoo College in Kalamazoo, Michigan. He's been in advertising for over 40 years, now enjoying his retirement in Tallahassee, so he wisely gave up shoveling snow in Michigan and heading down to the sunshine of Florida. William, welcome to the program. Great to have you with us today.
It's great to be here.
Looking forward to talking about the book, Woman of Valor. It's a book, it's a love story, it's a life story, and let's sort of set the stage for how the book came about in Lois, your wife, and how important she was to your life. Let's talk about where you were in life when she came into your world and where she was. Let's pick it up there with the story.
Well, I was 50 years old, and she was also. And I'd been in advertising for a great many years, almost 40 years at that point. Well, about 30 years anyway. And I had been through a very sad divorce, and having met her abruptly at Temple Sinai, and I didn't pay much attention to her at the time because she was teaching Sunday school, and then all of a sudden she wasn't. She was gone a year later, and so forth. But anyway, I learned that she was ill and then had come back to teach. And I eventually was over my divorce, and I started to date her.
You know, what's interesting is you were teaching basically side by side in teaching Sunday school. You were within like about 10 feet of her classroom?
Well, yes, it was not a classroom. It was an open area, and there were simply these partitions which were set up to simulate classrooms. And she was one partition over from me, so we had to be very quiet. I was teaching 6th grade, and she was teaching 5th grade. And it was quite interesting. We would figure out ways to keep the children from making so much noise that they would bother the other class.
You know, as fate would have it, you mentioned that, okay, now you're suddenly interested, you enjoy your company, you would like to see her again. She disappears for a while, and let's talk about that. You didn't know the struggles that she had gone through, the hardships that she had gone through in her life. And at this point, you'd found out later that she had cancer, was fighting cancer, and went off to California for a year.
Yes, she went out to California. She was out there for a year. She went to City of Hope, which is a unusual place out in, not far from Los Angeles,
right.
Southern Los Angeles. And she was battling cancer and came back a year later and still struggled, and then gradually got back to teaching again.
What is interesting is you had given up teaching when things were like really hectic for you at work at the time, gave up teaching, and when Lois came back, she took over the class that you were teaching?
Yes, that's right. She took over the class that I had given up. And she was teaching 6th grade, which is what she had taught, I learned before. But anyway, she had taught in 6th grade, which was a difficult grade because the girls are always more outgoing than the boys, and the boys are into each other, and the girls are more into class, and then you have to control them in a different kind of way than you would a year earlier in 5th grade, because the boys and girls are more on the same level.
You're listening to This Week in America, our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Our guest on the program, William Zuspan, that's Zuspan. His book is called Woman of Valor. It's available at Amazon.com, also available at Doran'sBookstore.com. All that information at our website, thisweekinamerica.us, and you can link on to get information on William's book. When she comes back, she realizes that she's not a member of the temple, and she realized I could be in the choir and I don't have to be a member. And she comes back to the choir and positions herself so that she's actually will be noticed by you. So there was some interest on her part as well. What was that like when she came back? You realized she was in the choir, and then later you realized she actually wanted to get your attention.
Yes, yeah, I was very shy. I didn't realize that she had come back and, not being a member, had joined the choir to become acquainted with me again. And I didn't do anything at all about it. We went to all these choir practices, and I didn't do anything about it until the end of the season, and we were at a reception at somebody's house in the basement, and she came, and all of a sudden I was wanting to go out with her.
What was it like during this period? You're not necessarily looking for companionship. You went through the difficult marriage, and that was behind you. You had mentioned you were in your 50s. Talk about the evolution of this, because you say in the book Woman of Valor that you were there to help her, she was there to help you. So it really developed from this friendship into a romantic relationship and ultimately into a marriage.
Well, that's true. She had gone through a difficult time. I learned later on, after dating her, she had two children. She had adopted two children. She didn't have any children because of the problem that she'd had. And she then went through a series of friendships. She went with a psychologist, and that didn't work out. And so we just sort of were exploring each other, and I, of course, was on the loose after 20 years of marriage, and I was not really gung-ho to do anything serious. So we gradually learned each other, and we became, at first, simply friends, and then more, it became a love relationship.
And what's interesting, and the book is called Woman of Valor. William Zuspan, Zuspan, is our guest on the program. The book's available at Amazon and DoransBookstore.com, and information at our website, thisweekinamerica.us. It wasn't like you suddenly fall in love and everything is great and you live together happily ever after. There were struggles during this period, and you alluded to the two sons, and there's a scene in the book where you're at an apartment and she's showing you the different rooms and pictures there, the two young boys, and you sense as soon as she said who they were, you could detect sadness. This was a difficult relationship, wasn't it, with her?
It was indeed, because she wound up losing both children. Her husband went off in the Air Force. He went bankrupt, and then he joined the Air Force to get out of the bankruptcy, and he took the two children, he put them in private schools, and she didn't know where they were for a while. She didn't have any money when they first got divorced. And then finally, when she found out where they were and tried to get to know them, they didn't want to have anything to do with her because she wasn't there when they were young, and it was difficult. One of the boys, however, was at least friendly enough, but the other one was not. The older son was not. So it was difficult for her as a mother, even though they were both adopted. It was difficult.
You talk in the book, and the book is Woman of Valor. William Zuspan, our guest on the program, Zuspan, very openly about the difficulties you had, maybe drinking a little too much from time to time. And there was a description of the book when she was concerned about that. She said, "Your drinking frightens me."
Yes, she did, and I had been drinking quite a bit because I had gone through a divorce, and drinking became a common thing in the advertising business. Although I was not drunk, I didn't think. But anyway, she didn't like it, and it caused a considerable change in my behavior when I realized, my goodness, I was drinking too much, and it was affecting our relationship. So I had to stop, and I did. And we went through many years together, where we only had one drink a day, maybe, and it was an interesting proposition.
Interesting how you got to the point of remarriage, and there's a scene in the book, Woman of Valor, where she is talking about a friend of hers, Harry, and in fact, she admitted to you that this gentleman, if he ever would have asked me to marry him, I probably would have done that. He has contacted me. I'm going to see him again. Does that bother you? You were saying no, and secretly and down deep, it was bothering you. And then she said, you shouldn't be worried about this because I love you. At that point, was that sort of a turning point that you knew, wow, I'm hearing the words, I feel the same way, that we will get married?
Oh, yes, it was. It was overwhelming when she said that because she was so honest and so straightforward and so talking about how she felt just abruptly. And when she finally said that she loved me, I just completely went knockers.
Yes. And that's described in the book. Woman of Valor. William Zuspan is our guest on the program. Book is available at Amazon.com, DoranceBookstore.com. Information at our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Time going by quickly. I would like to talk about, we mentioned the cancer before, and she battled that. She battled that initially successfully. I think it's the spring of 2001 when she realizes that cancer is back, this time as lung cancer. Talk about that, and you talk very openly in the book about going through that time with her, the times where you shared courage, suffering, and happiness. Talk about that diagnosis and, again, battling cancer.
Well, initially, when she went and got this drug called Irissa, and all of a sudden the lung cancer just completely disappeared. She had this inflammation in the lining. There's a lining outside the lungs, and she had that was inflamed. But she took Irissa, and all of a sudden everything was gone, and they couldn't detect anything. And she was absolutely empowered with this. And unfortunately, Irissa didn't last very long. It lasted, about a year or so, about 14 months. And then she got the cancer, came back, the lining in the lungs and everything. And she tried different chemicals. We went to 2 different places. I went with her. And she was always very up. And willing to try anything. And unfortunately, it just didn't work. It gradually got down, and the cancer spread to her throat at one point, and one of her vocal cords was just completely taken over. And she had to practice to talk. And she finally was able to talk. All this took about 4 years, and she always thought that she would overcome it somehow, but it never did.
In a lot of travel, a lot of great memories, I'm sure, during that period. And you're talking in the book, and the book is Woman of Valor. A couple of months before she died, you went through with her the obituary, had her make changes, went through, and she had talked with friends and family about arrangements for the funeral. That has to be really difficult to sit there and with someone you finally find the love of your life and sit there and talk about end of life in terms that it's imminent.
Well, it is difficult, but something happened to me in that I was able to just divorce myself. I didn't have any feelings. I simply wanted to do the right thing and get the thing done. And her divorce, her obituary was something that was important. And she had no father. Her father had died. Her mother was gone. Her sister had died. She was all by herself. Her children, one of them wouldn't even talk to her. The other one was sort of a friend, but not really. And so I felt that my job would be to help get this obituary out, because this was going to be what stood for her.
And at the end of the book, there are plenty of pictures, and you feel like after you read the book and look at the pictures that you know Lois, and you feel like you know William as well. Her poetry in the back of the book as well. And you talk about, and it sort of helped you through all of this. She did journaling and would go back and kept notes for years. She never threw anything away, so you could remember her that way. And actually, that's sort of what got you to write the book, where you had the vivid recollections that she left, plus your own during this period.
Yes, that's right. That's right. She was very much alone throughout her whole childhood, really, and she would write things down, and she kept things, and she kept all of the history of everything throughout her whole life. And that was why I was able to, I think, put her life as clearly as I could in writing from everything that she had written.
And it's interesting. We've got just a minute or so left in the program. Several years, I believe about 10 years, she's fighting the cancer, where you're driving to San Diego, and she's saying, I really want you to basically find another wife to remarry.
Yes, she said that, and I poo-pooed it. I thought that was ridiculous. I wasn't going to pay any attention to her. But frankly, because we had such a good marriage, is the reason why I did ultimately remarry.
But 30 seconds left in the program. How much of you today is influenced by the relationship with Lois?
Oh my goodness, just about everything. I still think of her all the time.
The book is Woman of Valor. William Zuspan, our guest on the program, Zuspan. It's an excellent read. I mentioned in the beginning, it's a love story. It's a life story. They go through struggles just like everybody else, and gives you confidence in humanity when you read a book like this, Woman of Valor. It's available at Amazon.com, at DoranceBookstore.com, and, of course, information at our website, thisweekinamerica.us, and you can link on directly with Amazon to get information on the book. William, I really enjoyed reading the book. I thank you so much for sharing Lois's story with us on the program today. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. I certainly appreciate it.
And we'll have you back sometime, and we'll talk about advertising. That's a whole other program that we can get into at a later date. Thank you for joining us on the program This Week in America. Our website, thisweekinamerica.us.